In the 90s, Playmates Toys made the deepest line of Star Trek action figures in history. My name's Keith, and I'm a collector working towards owning all 284. I've been a Trek fan for almost 35 years, and most people are sick of me talking about it. But somehow I've convinced my old friend Mike to review them with me on Look at My Star Trek Toys! What's up, everybody? We are back with another exciting episode of Look at My Star Trek Toys. And if you look at my co-host, Mike, you can tell that we recorded these episodes back to back because his scratch on his nose has not healed at all.
Yeah, I should have given some context for that. I did not. It was a terrible transporter accident, Keith.
It was a mystery. It was an accident that happened during the transporter episodes. So very exciting. A week went by for you, but only about 30 seconds went by for us. So it might be a transporter through time accident. But this week, speaking of transporting through time.
No, Keith, I have to start. I don't even know the context, but I have to tell you first.
Yeah.
Because as people know, sometimes I seem less enthused than other times. I'm very excited because, well, you might not know, Keith, because we haven't really ever discussed this crazily. Yes. I love Westerns. It is a milieu that speaks to me. I love the old Westerns. I love the spaghetti Westerns. I love Western video games. You and I share a love of Red Dead Redemption.
Sure.
I love people who wear cowboy hats, Rick Grimes, the whole nine, whatever it is. I love me some Westerns. So, and I love sci-fi Westerns. I'm loving Westworld. So the combination of worlds here, Keith, I'm excited about. Now tell me what the hell we're looking at.
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, you brought it up. My question to you, Mike, is do you like Star Trek?
I'm getting into it.
Do you like Westworld? You already said.
I do.
Well, guess what? You know what Westworld really is? It's the holodeck. And we all, you go to this place where you can do all sorts of unspeakable things to things that aren't, considered sentient until they are. On the holodeck, here we are. So this is an entire set of figures based on one single episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation, in which we have a full-on Western in the holodeck. And of course, we are talking about the episode A Fistful of Datas, which is a very memorable, fun... Some people really don't like this episode. I think it's fun. I mean, obviously, it's sort of geared towards kids, but they clearly had so much fun producing this episode. And an episode directed. Do you know who directed A Fistful of Datas?
Clint Eastwood.
It should have been Clint Eastwood. Would have made a lot of sense, but it was actually somebody far more important and far cooler. None other than our Capitan. Patrick Stewart directed A Fistful of Datas. Out, I'm assuming, on the Paramount backlot of their Western set. And so the concept of the show is Alexander, Worf's son, drags Worf into his holodeck adventure. Oh, well done. Into his holodeck adventure. That is a Western... partly set up by Reg Barclay, who only gets a name check, but is referenced because of his holo skills and addiction. So he drags Worf into the holodeck to go on a Western adventure. And of course, they get all dressed up, and Worf is the sheriff, and Alexander is the deputy. And in classic Star Trek lore, much like we talked about the transporter, if you use the transporter, something goofy is going to go wrong. In the holodeck, every single holodeck episode, something goes wrong, which makes all those safety protocols go haywire. So all of a sudden, it's dangerous when it was supposed to be safe. Much like the transporter, if it went horribly wrong, the percentage of times it does on the show, no one would ever use it. Likewise, the holodeck. But here we are, and we don't care. We've done it so many times. We know exactly how it's going to happen.
You know what? I'm going to kick back on that.
Okay.
I'm going to kick back on that because A friend of the show, Phoenix Cage, is a big fan of VR. We've talked about VR. VR is still in its pupil state, really. But even with the like less than great graphics, and even with the like clunky, sometimes I want to barf, and the screen door effect, even at this early stage, I still, when I put it on, it's still so cool that I'm in. Can you imagine, Keith, if the holodeck in its splendor was available to us, with the caveat that it could potentially have catastrophic events that could affect all of the ones you love? I think it's still err on the side of, yeah, but... but...
Yes. Well, let me put it this way. I mean, yes, of course. If you could give me one gift in all of space and time beyond, like, immortality or omnipotence, it would definitely be a holodeck. A holodeck.
I just have one true question about the holodeck.
Yes.
Can you clear the cache and browsing history?
Let us friggin' hope so. And lock the door, folks. The door's never locked on the show. It just walks in on other people's holodeck stuff.
The last question I'll ask, and I want to pitch it to our audience. Let us know in the YouTube comments. Now, I want to keep it clean, all right? Let's keep this clean, even though I believe we put it into an explicit show. But nonetheless, let's keep it clean for our younger viewers. I want to know in the YouTube comments, if you could have 1 hour in the holodeck, okay? What would you use it for? Would you go back in time and like visit the memories of your childhood, maybe see your dad or something of like that? Or would you go on a crazy Western adventure? What would you do? I want to hear in the comments.
That's right. And let's again make it clear. It's what would you do, not who would you do. So keep that in mind.
Keith, I said keep it clean, buddy. Come on, we got to expand our demographic here.
That's right. Well, look, my point about the holodeck, why, as it works here, because you say like, oh, if it might go wrong sometimes, sure. But let's say a season of Star Trek takes place over the course of a year. So twice a year, the safeties went off. So if you got shot in the Western, you would actually die. So I think if something might actually kill me twice a year, that, I have some questions.
So pick a safer adventure. I mean, go to a water park. You don't have to go on a shooting up cowboys type of thing. Come on.
Go to a water park. Well, we know what Mike would do. All right. Well, so here we are in the town of Deadwood, and things are going to start to go haywire because we have hooked up Data to the computer to be a backup for the computer, blah, 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 technobabble, and Data's subconscious starts to merge with this figure, so Data starts appearing as all of the characters in this story, and back in the real world, Data starts talking like a cowboy, and it's really silly and ridiculous. So while we're talking about Data, let us talk about the figure pack that he came in, and that is the twin pack from the Holodeck series. Let's just take a look at the packaging because I think it's interesting here because this was where you got your Data figure. And this is package 65191, the Holodeck series. So in this package, you got Data as Frank Hollander, the bad guy in the story, and you got Worf as the sheriff and Alexander as the deputy. And once again, it's sort of similar. All of these twin packs or whatever, you'll see that it is numbered on the front of the package, but is not numbered on the feet. But you got 3 figures in this package. And I think we have the back too, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Let's take a look. So here's the back, and you can sort of see some of the other twin packs. No spoilers, but we'll get to them at some point. But these are the ones from Fistful of Datas. So let's take a look at the figure itself of Brent Spiner as Frank Hollander in 65191. Let's take a look. Let's beam them in, folks. So this episode gave Brent Spiner a chance to Brent Spine all over the place. And he was clearly having a blast.
Tell me he has a hat. He must have a hat.
Yes, he did come with a hat. I do not have the hat, sadly. So It must be around somewhere in the choking hazards. But a really cool bad guy Western outfit. What do you think, Mike?
Okay, Keith, are you ready for this?
Hit me.
Now, I'm assuming my caveat is that with the hat, this would be my favorite figure so far of all
Really?
of the things we've looked at.
All of the figures that we've seen.
One of my favorite figures growing up was a Marvel X-Men known as Gambit, and he had this crazy cool trench coat, duster kind of thing. I love the duster. Data looks so badass in this. Give him his hat, and I would be all over it. I don't care if I knew Star Trek or not. This is my jam.
Well, it's super fun. And one of the things that I wish they had made throughout the episode, as Data's subconscious becomes more entwined with this story, more and more of the characters in this story are all played by Brent Spiner. So he's integrated. So he plays the bad guy's son, the bad guy's henchman, the town floozy, bartender, and all of that. And it becomes so silly and fun. But of course, in the stipulations of this, they can't get out. Safety measures are off, and they have Data's skills, not the skills of the characters themselves. So, you have to add some peril to it. But I wish they had made all of the Data figures in this, all the characters that he played, because it's really fun. And, Brent Spiner is a guy with a terrific sense of humor and sort of a wicked sense of glee, playing all of these other characters that do not behave like Data, which he does so marvelously. But there's a lot more going on with Brent than he's able to show a lot of times. So this gave him an opportunity to kick his heels up a little bit. Super, super fun. Well, let us go forth and take a look at the 65191 Sheriff Worf from this package. Okay, so here is Sheriff Worf. Of course, Michael Dorn also getting a chance to play a little bit, and you'll see his whole cowboy figure. All right, you talk about this for a second. See what you think.
Now, not as badass. It's interesting to, you would think that of all people, Worf would be the baddest of asses.
Right.
But I'm going to say it right here. Just like, we're stuttering.
God.
Just like a hat can make a character, it can break a character. And this makes him look much more like a pirate to me.
Yes.
Like a goofy sidekick pirate, or a continental, colonials Williamsburg performer. So it doesn't do it for me as much, but that's okay. Can't win them all.
I would definitely imagine that was a production issue, because you couldn't see his face when it was down.
Oh, okay.
And he's got, he's got the...
Is it molded on as well?
The hat is molded onto the figure. That's right. So you can't take it off. And it's mixed up with his ridges, which makes this Worf head the one Worf head specific to this episode and not used on any other Worf figures.
Interesting.
Which is why he has his full Pantene Pro V bob and the goatee there. But I imagine they probably had a production meeting about how do we see his face in his hat. And Patrick Stewart was, just put the bill up. No, not a problem. And so that happened.
Now you put an alternate in here, Keith. Are we going to show that?
We are. And we just first say lastly about it.
Sure.
I really wish that they'd put his holster.
Yeah.
And his bullets there, and you can see his communicator there on his holster in the picture, because that's how he saves himself, is he builds himself a temporary force field, which allows Data to shoot his bullets, because of course it ends with a duel, because and is able to defeat Data by having a force field that he was able to generate from his communicator. So Worf is quite the dum-dum in the first couple of seasons, but he's got some skills you're not expecting. All right, so let us move forward here, because if we go to figure 6434, we have this figure again, sort of. Let's take a look. So here it is. It's kind of the same figure, but if we take a look at the packaging of this figure, you will see that this was released in the twin pack, but also individually as a figure. So here it is in the Holodeck series. Now, this was released in 1995, whereas the twin pack was released 3 years later. So this is the classic. So this came out first. And so you have Worf here with Alexander as his choking hazard. But there are going to be some slight variations on Worf here. So if we look at them side by side, let's go to Toy Cam and let's see if you can spot the differences. It's a little quiz game for Mike here. So here they are, side by side.
Oh, this is like one of those games.
It's like one of those games. Can you spot 3 differences?
Okay, I can spot the hat is different. There's a brim on the one, or is that paint just faded in the one?
No. He has a little difference in the head there. Yep, he sure does.
Okay.
A little hard to see, but
Yeah, well, get me a little lower. Yeah, I don't know.
okay. Hard to tell. But on the figure with the twin pack, and if you go back to you can go back to the video of it. It's better to tell.
So this is the first Worf.
The first Worf. His
Sorry, I have a lot of
neckerchief.
things loaded up, so just
There's a lot of things
folks.
happening. It's gonna be fine. You know, we're all doing it live.
That's true. We sure are. Here we go.
All right. So his neckerchief has the pattern on it, whereas the original one does not. And so you have those 2 little detail changes that obviously they were going to charge more for the twin pack, so they put a little bit more effort into it. The other difference is pretty subtle, especially in the video, but his arms are matte painted as opposed to glossy painted.
Oh, that is interesting.
So you wouldn't really even notice any of these differences if you weren't looking at it in the light. In fact, I didn't know there were differences until I started going into the details there. And the other difference, of course, is that the figure from 95 is numbered individually, whereas the twin packs, the number is on the box itself. So that is Worf's 2 figures here from this series, which is interesting that they chose to re-release it. But I guess by the time they put out the twin packs and like, all right, we're going to sort of fill this out, maybe if you went to Toys R Us, they didn't have those older figures available. Or they figured, let's just get a double dip here and get a second bite of the apple. And us nerdy collectors, because you made a little bit of difference, we're going to have to get both of them, right? As weird as that may be. So while we're at it, we saw that Deputy Alexander there was a choking hazard. Oh, you can say, oh, well done. Side by side.
Not perfect, but we're
it's pretty close. It's pretty good for doing it live. And actually, you can really tell the pattern on the neckerchief in that footage there. So, interesting. All right. Let us take a look at his choking hazard in Toy World and in Real World, Deputy Alexander. Thank you for beaming in, Alexander. So, now you'll note here, I did a bit of a cop-out because when I started prepping this episode, I didn't realize I don't have the Alexander from the twin pack. I only have the one from 6434. So that's a hole in my collection. And I was like, oh, should I just put off this episode? I'm like, come on now. That's craziness. So here is the Alexander from 1995, the 6434. And I'm sure, Mike, you can tell us the differences between that and the final Alexander in the twin pack.
It looks like a paint job difference.
Yeah.
The shirt, I see some contrast in the shirt. That's a little different. To To be honest, it's kind of tiny on my screen, so I don't you can't quite see anything else.
All right. Well, here I'll help you out there. The things are happening. Things are happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically they painted the figure. The original figure that they put out is basically a flat brown, and only his face, hands, and hair are painted. Whereas in the final version of it, in the twin pack, they painted his belt buckle and his belt. They painted his shirt red to match the screen and his vest. The whole thing. They didn't even paint his badge in the original figure. So, again, they're trying to save some money, and he's just a choking hazard anyway. But certainly the 1998 version is the superior figure, and I'm a little sad I don't have it. I'm going to have to get onto the eBays and get me a copy.
Yeah, maybe get two, Keith, because I think this one's awesome also. It's giving me very much Carl Grimes vibes from The Walking Dead.
Totally.
He's so bad. I love the actual, we talked sometimes that sometimes the facial sculpting isn't particularly emotive. In this, specifically the 65-191, it's very emotive. He's very much got that don't mess with me, I'm the sheriff in town kind of vibe. And I'll say that, the last time, I believe it was a Ferengi, we saw like a smaller scale
we saw
kind of pack-in. Yeah.
Yep.
Was not the greatest of let's say figures. They didn't really put the full college try in there, but this is really, really cool, well sculpted, well positioned. There's a lot of storytelling taking place in the figure, and that's something we don't get a chance to talk about very often, but I do dig it when there's a story being told in just the model.
Yeah. No, for sure. And that this is one of the more likable episodes for Alexander in general, because he was sort of written pretty annoying, frankly. And it was a little bit odd, but this one felt like it made sense. And I love the father-son story of, basically the son saying, "Dad, play with me," and the reluctant father who ends up having a great time in the process. So while we're talking about Alexander, we should talk about all of the folks who have played Alexander over the years, because it was first played in the episode Reunion by John Steuer, who was, at this point, very, very little boy, 4 or 5 year old. And then the role was taken over after that episode by Brian Bonsall, mainly because John Steuer, the kid, was just kind of a shy kid. And Brian Bonsall was already very experienced. He was in Family Ties, and then took over the role for the rest of the Next Generation. When Deep Space Nine came along, we met an adult Alexander, which is one of the figures in our wish list series. You can, look around somewhere. We have them. Was one of the figures that I'd like to have. The adult Alexander, played by Mark Warden. However, because it's Star Trek, there is still one other person who has played Alexander, and that is from the Next Generation episode Firstborn, where we meet future Alexander, played by James Sloyan. So, lots of different Alexanders. We have basically like little Alexander, medium Alexander, old Alexander, time traveler Alexander. A lot of things are happening with that character, and they really kept going. They kept pushing that character, whether or not people were responding to it or not. But I think it added a really interesting color for Worf, and to watch him try and pretty much fail to be a decent father to the son he did not know that he had for a while. And but one of the people who helped this situation the most and helped counsel the two of them through sort of family counseling many times over the series, and joined them on this adventure in Deadwood, it's Counselor Troi as Durango, figure number 6438. Because guess what? Marina Sirtis joins this episode and is awesome as the gunslinger Durango who helps Alexander and Worf through this, which makes perfect sense because she is sort of the third cog in the wheel that is the family. Although they we're not romantically involved except for like a hot second at the end of the series. She definitely did some surrogate mothering for Alexander. And she's super fun in this episode. Interestingly, she finally gets to fight in this. And there's sort of an ugly, there's not ugly, it's just sort of disappointing element of Next Gen. There was an episode in which all of our heroes are thrown into Sherwood Forest, and we do our whole Robin Hood arc. And all of our characters are playing different characters from Robin Hood, and of course it ends in a big battle at the castle. And the women, Troi and Crusher, weren't allowed to pick up swords and fight. And they just sort of like watched and threw flower pots. And, I from what I understand, both of the actresses were pretty pissed off by that. And they should have been. And so I like that they're able to say, like, all right, fine. Like, Marina gets to play just like everybody else, as well she should have. And it was kind of pretty sexist when you look back at it today. But what do you think here of Durango?
Oh, yeah. Next to Data, absolutely the best. So badass. I love the holster sling. I love this sort of... Also, speaking of, I haven't seen the episode. I'm absolutely going to watch this episode.
Yeah, you should.
The screenshot just tells me everything I need to know. Like, she's so awesome. And it's the best Troi figure that I've seen that we've looked at from your collection yet. I just, like you said, I think it's cool when they give them a chance to flex a little bit, because obviously her role on the ship is very specific. And she's often dealing with other people's crap. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's cool to see her kind of get to be a no-nonsense, take charge badass here.
Yeah, and I think it all, I think giving the actors a chance to flex is exactly right, because as a character, she's a counselor. She's very reserved. She's very calm. She's very whatever. But Marina, the person, she is a badass. She is tough as nails and speaks her mind. And to give her a chance to like actually play, it was great. I really, really liked it. And she and Michael Dorn bouncing off of each other in this world was good fun. So here we are. Here is the packaging of it, and you can see the choking hazards. Lots of guns, super fun, and her collector card there. Her hat, because I know you're going to ask. Her hat is attached and does not remove, but really good commemoration of this super fun
great
episode.
Choking hazards, so much better than the normal nonsense.
Right, and she's got the keys for the jail cell because they had arrested the son of the bad guy, both of whom eventually end up being played by Brent Spiner. And you said from the screenshot of the episode itself, the fact that they filmed it on the actual Western backlot, made it look awesome. It looked, because of course, all of a sudden you're using this set that they've built for a million different things, and so the budget looks like they spent $1 gazillion on it, when really they just went next door and filmed on the set. Right. But Patrick Stewart put like filters on the camera lenses, so it had that sort of yellowy red, dusty Western feel. So the episode itself looked like it cost way more money than it probably did. But super fun. So before we leave you and give you all of our typical contact info, I had a little video that I took by accident that I thought you might enjoy. We have a new alien monster helping me with taking the footage of the figures. Let's take a look here. Oh, there's something huge attacking Marina. Oh no, what's happening? And
such soothing music too.
That's the music that's on the YouTube video that I use as the background. So that's my cat Charlie. He is the most amazing cat in the world. Not always super helpful when I'm filming the figures. So and if you're wondering, if you're keeping track at home, how do I shoot these things? Well, it's very simple. I put the toys on a turntable, and I put them in front of a computer monitor, the one I have right behind me, put on some background footage, and set up the lights, and I just shoot them on the turntable right there. So I'm as we do this, I'm refining my techniques on lighting these things and filming these things, but it's really quite simple. But it's simple until your cat decides to participate. Then it becomes a little more complicated. Well, folks, if you would like to tell us stories of your cats and whether or not they interfere with your setups, Mike, how would they do that?
Folks, it's very easy. Look at my Star Trek Toys at gmail.com. It's the easiest way to get a hold of us because it's just about this show. Anything you want to talk about, your toys, our toys. It's really been great to catch up with some of our viewers, in all honesty. People going through a rough time who found some levity and some positivity through the show. Some people reliving childhood memories. Some people living vicariously through Keith's toys like I am. We want to hear from you about anything. Also, you can hit us up in the YouTube comments. We both try to get in there and respond when possible. I like to throw my 2 cents in, even though I am not as steeped in the lore as most of you. Yet, and Keith. But I am having the time of my life being along for the ride. Another thing you can do to help us out is hit that subscribe button and also the bell. That not only keeps you informed of what we've got going on, but it helps us with the YouTube algorithm. Also, we are trying to legitimately get in touch with Playmates. Yes, this is a sort of tongue-in-cheek, very light show, but we're putting a lot of time and effort, as you can see, in not only filming this stuff, but basically running a real-time production studio to get so these things look good.
You are, yes.
Yes, so we're trying to get Playmates to use us to look at their new line of toys coming out and maybe send us anything special they got coming up. So we're trying to, Keith, I think you have some contact information if people want to help us.
You can email them directly and say, hey, these dum-dums are, this is where I get my Playmates Toys information. You can email them at toys@playmatestoys.com. That's toys@playmatestoys.com. We'd very much appreciate the shout out. And so a couple things as we move forward. We want to start collecting your customs for display here on the show. So start thinking about, we're going to want photographs. If you want your customs featured on the show and reviewed on the show, obviously. Some pictures and ideally some video. If you have a turntable, great. If not, whatever. Just allow us to see your customs so that we can feature them here on the show. And you can email us there and look at my Star Trek Toys at gmail.com, and we will start assembling those. And not just the toys. We're about to do an episode on my bookshelf. It was requested. We want to show how am I displaying my toys. I also want to see how are you displaying your toys. So we will do an episode about your displays. How do you have them set up? Is it a bookshelf? Do you have a display case? Do you light them? Do you not light them? What do you do? We would very much like to do an episode on that. So start thinking about that. Think about how you can get that to us at lookatmystartrektoys@gmail.com. Other than that, yes.
If you don't want to go through the rigmarole, you can also we're starting a hashtag. Hashtag Look at My Star Trek Toys. That way we can compile all of the different Star Trek cool stuff and from the Instagram and pop it on the show one time. Make sure it's cool with that we're going to put it on the internet, just so you know. If you use that hashtag, I'm sure you're fine with it. You can also tag us at Star Trek Toys. That would be helpful. That's our Instagram profile. Keith posts all kinds of fun stuff on there to pump you up for the show. I'm looking forward to next week when you won't see me scarred for life. And I think that's all, Keith.
That's it. We will see you next week with another exciting episode of
Look at My Star Trek Toys!